What's up, guys? We're back for another Star Wars review. Some new 3 3/4 inch figures in the Solo line. These guys have just started to hit store shelves. They're very, very new. I've only seen small reports here and there, and I came across them in a local Meijer store. I didn't find all of them. I'm missing the Kylo Ren, but I figured we'll talk about them anyway because I'm pretty excited for these three in particular. So we've got the new Hoth Leia figure. We have got Supreme Leader Snoke, so he was previously exclusive to that BB-8 playset from the Last Jedi line. I have that playset, I have this figure, but I've never actually opened it, so I've never really done anything with him out of the box. And then the one that I'm most excited about is a new figure for Solo. He's an alien. He looks pretty cool. He's still got that very much new Star Wars alien aesthetic going on. We've got Moloch here. So this guy is pretty cool looking, big chunk of plastic, very heavy. All of these figures come on the same kind of card back, the Solo style with the artwork, with the yellow lettering, so very much reminiscent of what we got with The Last Jedi as well. Force Link 2.0 callouts all over the package. I've said time and again, I don't like these cards. They're very flimsy. They have no real redeeming quality to them. They're just ads for Force Link, so they're going to be garbage for me. I'm not saving these card backs, but we're going to pull these guys out now, and we're going to take a closer look. Alright guys, so here are the figures out of the package. We've got Moloch, we've got Hoth Leia, and we've got Supreme Leader Snoke here on the right. We're going to talk about them individually. There's not tons and tons to talk about, as I say pretty much every time we do a 3 3/4 inch figure review, but a couple of these figures have some interesting things going for them, and honestly, I was pretty excited to actually get all three of them. So we're going to start with Leia, and then we'll go to the two big guys in the back. Alright, and here she is. Here is Princess Leia in her Hoth gear. So obviously this is Empire Strikes Back Leia, and I say this quite a bit. I don't know if this is a new sculpt or not. I really have no idea. So if someone does know, let me know. But we have got a pretty basic figure here. She does have a little bit extra as far as articulation goes, but for the most part it's a pretty cookie cutter standard figure, but I think she does look pretty solid. The only real gripe I have about her is that she is kind of wobbly. I have a hard time really finding the sweet spot to get her to stand up perfectly 100% of the time. But it's not a huge deal, and once you get her, she's going to stay just fine. She does have a little bit of an angry expression going on her face, but I can definitely see a little bit of Carrie Fisher in this particular figure. Paint application on it's pretty nice. I like the varying tones of white and kind of cream colors on the Hoth uniform because it's not stark white through and through. It's a very much kind of a muddled looking set of colors. So we've got kind of off-white, you know, eggshell, cream type colors, and I think it comes through pretty well. It might not come through all that great on this camera, but it comes through pretty well in person. We do have a little bit of paint applications here and there for like the communicator and then the insignia on her chest. The braids in her hair are nicely sculpted, and all in all, it's a basic figure, but I think it looks pretty good. As far as articulation goes, like I said, she does have something a little bit extra. Her head can swivel, her arms can rotate, she can move her legs, but she has boot swivel on both legs, and I think that's part of my issue is I'm having a hard time finding exactly the sweet spot at times to get her to stand up, but once you get her, like, you know, I just happen to do now, she stands up just fine. She does come with a blaster rifle or blaster pistol, and pretty standard. She can hold in either hand, although the grip on the left hand, at least for my figure, is a little bit looser, so she seems to hold it a little bit better, but she can hold it just fine in either. It does have one little bit of silver paint on the tip for its paint apps. Other than that, though, it's just cast in a black plastic. So yeah, she's the most basic of these three, but she's still a pretty iconic version, and honestly, this is, I'd say, probably my favorite version of Leia. I really have a fondness for the Hoth outfits, and I really dig hers, and I think this is a pretty good figure. It's nothing too crazy, it's nothing boring, it's Leia in one of her many good outfits, so you really can't go wrong, and it's definitely one that I wasn't going to pass up. Now, love him or hate him, we have got Supreme Leader Snoke, and like I said, this guy originally came with the BB-8 playset from the Last Jedi line, so he was exclusive to that set. You could only get him that way, which I think was a bad decision. But ultimately, I'm not sure too many people really cared, especially now since we have him on a single card. He is a very basic figure. He's confined in his sculpt because he's just, you know, mostly those robes. So his articulation is swiveling arms and swiveling legs, so you can do that. That's about it. The head does have a little bit extra because the neck is articulated at the shoulders, not the head where it meets the neck. So the entire neck will move when you swivel that head around. So it's a minimal movement. There's not a whole lot to do in there because of that collar on the robes in there, but It's a little bit extra, and they did add something to kind of sweeten the deal a little bit. But he doesn't have anything at the wrist or anything like that. He, of course, doesn't have any waist rotation. The figure itself, though, I think it looks really nice. The head sculpt on this guy, I think, is absolutely solid. You've got that gnarly skull, the just jacked up face and neck. Everything on him, I think, looks really, really good. Just in the same way that I think the Black Series figure looks really good. From a toy standpoint, he's sculpted very well. I think the robes are sculpted nicely. There's a lot of line work in there. You can see where they hit the ground, that they kind of flow off because there's a little extra fabric. And there is a bit of a wash over him to give him a little bit of the illusion of shadow in those robes, so it's not just the metallic gold coming through. And in general, despite the fact that he is very basic and you really can't do a whole lot aside from just have him standing there, I do think he absolutely looks the part. And whether you love or hate the character at this point, this is a solid figure. He is a decent chunk of plastic as well. He stands a little over 4 inches tall, so you get a little bit more bang for your buck in terms of materials. And then if you happen to like the figure, that's an added bonus. But I think as far as just the toy is concerned, I don't really have any faults here. Sculpt is on point, paint is on point. The only thing that's really lacking is going to be articulation, but at the same time, for this line, I can't fault it just because of the fact that it's confined by the sculpt itself. And last but certainly not least, we have got Moloch. So this character is brand new to the Star Wars universe from the Solo movie. And I know we've seen a little bit of him here and there in promo materials. He has appeared in a teaser. I'm not going to talk about that just in case you haven't seen it. But there might be some kind of spoilery stuff with this figure just because it does offer up details on this character we didn't know previously. So if you don't want to see what this guy has to offer, I would suggest stopping now. But at the same time, I don't really think anything I'm going to show you is going to factor into the movie in the slightest. So as far as articulation goes, we will start there, because he does have some interesting articulation, but he's also limited because of whatever he happens to be. So the head has a little bit of movement. You can rotate it around, and we'll talk more about the head in a minute. Arms can swivel. He does have wrist rotation on both wrists, and that is it. He doesn't have anything at the waist. There is no swivel there, and he doesn't have legs either. This is one of the things that I was talking about. It's kind of spoilery because I didn't know about this previously. He's kind of like a slug, I guess, or something like that. But he has no legs, so he has no leg articulation, which also means we have no problem standing him up. He has perfect stability. As far as his overall sculpt and design, I really like him. He is very much in that new Star Wars aesthetic, though. You know that this is definitely not an original trilogy type alien. You know, based on what we've seen in like The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, this is that new era of Star Wars aliens that they look Star Wars-y, but they also are something new. This guy very much reminds me of Sarko Plank from The Force Awakens. You know, you see him for about a split second in the movie. He got a figure. Yeah, he kind of reminds me of that, just based on his overall design. He does have this staff here, which is sculpted pretty nicely. I don't know what's going on with it. It's got some sort of thing on the end, like kind of a club almost. It's a coppery kind of plastic. There's no paint on it. It's just sculpted that way. He has this tiny, tiny, tiny little gun. Little baby gun, like the noisy cricket from Men in Black. And he has a holster on his belt, so he can sit it there. He has interesting hands, too, because he has, like, mittens, almost. He doesn't have individual sculpted fingers. He has a thumb and a trigger finger, but his other fingers are sculpted together like he's got some sort of mittens, or who knows what he's got under there. But the figure itself, I mean, I think it's pretty cool. He's got this nice flowing cape. He's got the robes on the inside with the harness. He's got the whatever's going on down here with his space slug style body. And then of course he has this big head apparatus here, which I think is pretty cool. This looks like it might, you know, come down. It's maybe mechanized or something. And then he has what looks like maybe a breathing apparatus on his face with some sort of shielding over. So we know that he's not this thing, but this figure actually tells us more because he has removable parts. So you can pop this mouthpiece off here, and it comes down, and you can see a little pink nub in there. Pop this off, this whole mask comes off. His entire head is actually sculpted inside of this apparatus. Now, I have no idea what he is. He has to be a new creature. He does have, you know, sculpted detail on there. He has paint applications. We've got some shading with like a tan color on his flesh tones in there, and then he's got those blue eyes. I don't really know what's going on. He does have a sculpted mouth, and the head on the inside does rotate. He also does have some sort of, I don't know, maybe a head dressing on the inside of this hood as well. So this figure is taking things to a whole different level as far as I'm concerned. This is a step above a standard basic 5 POA figure. He may not have tremendous articulation, but as far as sculpt and paint goes, this guy is absolutely on point. I'm pretty happy with this figure in terms of what he has to offer, and just the fact that it does all of this, it offers up something new, and it's just a weird character. It really, really does it for me. I'm really, really happy with this one. I don't think this was advertised in any way. I don't think I would have noticed right away had it not been posted online earlier today. I saw something about it right after I actually found this figure in store, that his mask comes off, revealing whatever it is that he is on the inside. So, you know, spoilery, I guess, but there's no way that's going to matter at all in the movie. I just think it's a cool little bonus that he's able to do this, and it's just something extra that Hasbro didn't have to do, but they did it anyway. The only thing I'm concerned about is whether or not he actually looks like this under there. You know, knowing how this goes, he could very well be something entirely different under that mask, and Hasbro sculpted something based off of earlier concept art. But only time will tell. Either way, it makes for a very cool toy. So at the end of the day, I am pretty satisfied with these 3 figures. You know, Snoke may be a repack, but he sort of isn't at the same time, just because of the fact that most people didn't get a hold of him, and he does offer new stuff to say because of the Force Link 2.0, if you are so inclined to care about that stuff. Leia is a pretty solid figure. She's still very basic compared to Snoke and Moloch, but it's a pivotal, iconic Leia look, so I'm very happy with her. Moloch, though, is definitely the star of the show. The fact that it's a new character, he's got an interesting sculpt, he's got an interesting design in terms of whatever he happens to be, the removable parts, and just his whole look, I think, is really nice, and I really dig it. So I'm very, very happy with him in particular. If it was just him, I would be happy to have bought him today alone, but to get these 3 figures all at once was a nice little score. So I would definitely keep a lookout for these. They're definitely hitting shelves now. It's only a matter of time until I'm sure a few of these will clog up the pegs at a store near you. But for now, that is going to do it for this look at the Solo figures for Wave 2 from Hasbro. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and until next time.